Okay.
Because then that becomes unorganic, and then you're unorganic, and so it becomes this whole realm of not being organic.
Well, you know how against organic I am.
Like, what do you mean?
Like organic, like in the supermarkets and stuff.
I'm
talking about different things. You're talking about like.
What's it like?
Be real.
You're into improv, right?
Oh yeah, I am.
Like, I'm not into planning things out. I'm more into like, let's just see if it's gonna work.
All right. Well, let's see if this episode's gonna work. Welcome to the podcast. This is Tim and Andrew, and we are still moving.
We are still moving.
That. We are on episode
21.
22.
22?
22.
Wow. Got 22. Each one is roughly an hour, huh?
I know. We do need to shorten these. I really feel...
I don't know. I like them.
I
You don't like them?
I don't know. I feel like when I'm listening to a podcast... Well, I guess if it's a podcast I'm really into...
If it's interesting conversation, I feel like I'm always in to keep it going. Because then, even like, so Joe Rogan, he does almost a 4-hour podcast every single time.
Jeez.
But I find myself like really intrigued because it's not just one thing. They pivot to different conversations. And what's interesting is if I'm bored, right, I'll just switch podcasts or I'll just like turn it off. But then I go back and finish it, right? So I think that's what making it longer does.
So when you do the Joe Rogan podcast, are you actually listening to it as a podcast or are you doing it on YouTube?
I'm doing it on YouTube, but it's not necessarily that I'm watching. Because most of the time I have a bunch of tabs open.
Yeah. And
so I just have it on YouTube because it's easier than going to, like, online to like the website.
So I have a So are you doing this at work?
Yeah.
Not on a Mac then?
No, it's not. So it's on a Mac.
Because
so it's on a PC.
I have a really cool plugin. They might have it for the PC too. It allows me to do picture-in-picture with YouTube. So I just press one button and like my YouTube video like goes to the bottom right corner as I'm doing everything else.
Oh, that is cool.
I'll show you that later.
That's really cool. So what I usually do is I usually just minimize it, or I'll make, because I have 2 screens. Mm-hmm. So I'll make, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm having 2 Excel sheets open, I try to see if I need both really big, because if not, I'll go ahead and like move the YouTube in like a right corner and then make it so I can,
So can you concentrate well? Like so I love listening to podcasts, but I can't really like work while I listen to podcasts.
It really depends on what I'm doing. Like numbers, I can. Numbers are really easier for me, and I need to be like some type of noise going on. But if I'm writing, like if I'm trying to write or concentrate or reread something, mm-hmm. I have to turn it off and then go to reread it, because I just struggle with writing in general. So it's something like, but numbers, I'm like, it's easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With sound.
Yeah. If you walk into my house during a work day and you hear talking like a podcast or something going on, that means I'm not working.
Oh, really?
So people need to pop into my office and say, "Hey Tim, get back to work," because it's really hard for me I can't listen to people talking and work at the same time.
Well,
really
I think it may be where I grew up too. Like I grew up in a house with like 13 people living there at once. So really, to do anything, I had to have noise.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not necessarily. It's just comforting almost. I don't know. And I now, like, even when I was doing homework, I'd have Netflix on, and like I'd bust out papers and things of that nature.
I know. I used to do that. I used to like have like TV on while I did stuff, and the problem is I just get so sucked into that, and I'd end up taking like 3 hours more because I was being so distracted.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, like I couldn't imagine just knocking it out, just because to me, like, it almost gives me anxiety when I'm not.
Well, so I don't like silence either. I do like music. I have music that I throw on. Like I like to listen to like movie soundtracks.
Do you like music more than you like talking though? Would you say that?
To get work done?
No, just in general. Because like I love music, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, right? So I'd rather hear talking any day.
Right. So like if I'm driving somewhere, like it sounds bad. I know, look around before I say this. It sounds bad, but I kind of like driving places by myself without anyone in the car. Even my beautiful, lovely wife, who I do enjoy her presence. I get it. Because I like listening to podcasts. I like listening to people talk. I choose that over, like, if I was going to do a long trip to LA or something, mm-hmm. like tonight by myself, I would totally listen to a podcast the whole way. Like, if you look at my podcast list, I literally have like 5 podcasts I'm way behind in.
So what's interesting is like I mix it up a lot. So like I have a vast amount of interests, and maybe that's why like I don't finish a lot of stuff like that.
See, I still have like 5 left to go here.
But like I love sports talk, right? So I can literally listen to sports talk and while I'm doing anything, because to me it's just like it's talking about it's like listening to news in a sense. So like that's how I kind of look at the podcast. It's just like different information.
Well, see, and so I listen to some podcasts I listen to are like tech podcasts. So for me, that's my sports. Like it's my like, hey, what's happening in Apple right now?
So can you work with those, or do you have to listen to those? Interesting.
I can't work with it.
Interesting.
Well, and I mean, the nature of your job is numbers a lot of the time, right? The nature of my job is code.
Yeah.
And so
like
code is words.
I guess that's true.
So it's hard for me to.
That's true.
You know.
But isn't it like equations? Because if you really take the code basic form, isn't it an equation? It's a long, strung out equation that you kind of shorten sometimes.
It is, but it's all like variables and stuff, and it's all it's really not really numbers I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with words.
So they're like if statements.
Yeah,
essentially.
It's pretty much all programming is a bunch of if statements.
Seriously,
really.
That's all it is.
I'll show you sometimes some code.
Well, so like if you do if statements in Excel, it's just a more complicated version of that.
Yeah.
Correct.
So Excel is actually a very like basic programming like language really nowadays.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So then
I think you could learn to program if you needed to.
I probably could. It's just I think it takes time, and I don't want to invest the time.
Yeah.
I need to, because I keep thinking about life and how it's progressing, and soon like I'm not gonna have a job. I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna get to that point.
I know. I've always told myself when the robots take over, at least I'll be in charge of programming the robots.
Right? Until they start programming themselves.
I know. That's my. Hopefully, I'll be dead by then.
No, because I've told myself I'm in like a dying trade, and I know that. Like I'm self-aware of that. I don't think a lot of people are self-aware of that. So I'm always like, I need to start learning to code. I need to, but it's always like, we're not there yet. So let me put that at the bottom of the list.
You know, it's really not that hard.
No, you know what? I don't think it would be. It's because a lot of it is logarithms too, right? Like a little like algorithms and logarithms, and it's basically math and a little bit of variables.
And the funny thing is, I was so bad at math in high school.
Really?
Like I was.
Did it just not interest you?
Horrible. I couldn't get it. I'm not good at algebra.
Interesting.
And yet I'm a programmer.
You know, it may have been the teacher too, because like when I started math. Like even in college, I was struggling hardcore, and I went back to basic because I didn't test well. Mm-hmm. But then once I started going through and I started getting good teachers, I was like, oh, this is easy.
Well, see, geometry I was good at. I'm good at geometry, which it kind of makes sense because I'm a designer, right? So
you look at shapes and how like the equations of shapes and stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay. And okay. I can aspect ratios and with geometry, a lot of it's more logical than algebra is, because it's more of, you know, if this right angle, or if this angle is a right angle, then that must mean this thing is this kind of angle. You know, it has all the rules. I haven't done geometry since sophomore year of high school, but I just remember it just completely clicked and made sense when I took geometry.
Ooh.
But when I took algebra,
but you were one of those non-studiers, though, right?
Right.
So, like, did you really try?
No, with math I did try.
You did?
I did try.
Oh, okay.
And this is like freshman and sophomore. So I didn't really start. Well, I've always done the non-studying thing, but freshman and sophomore year of high school, I really did try. Junior and senior year, I floated through high school, but the beginning part of high school, I really did try, and I did bad at it.
Isn't that sad that high school is so like not challenging that you can just float through it? Because if you think about it, like all you do is show up in high school and you pass.
Well, and that's why like. I felt really bad for one of my best friends in high school. He was literally like, he didn't know he was going to graduate until the day of graduation.
I've had friends like that.
And I'm like, how? Like, because he couldn't pass, like, it was basic, like, 4th grade math. Like, he was in math, like, the lowest math you can pass high school with, he was in, and he wasn't sure he was going to pass it.
That's sad.
And it generally wasn't because he didn't try. He just wasn't good at it, I guess. I don't know.
I think some of it, there just has to be, like... some type of learning disability, or like they just don't connect with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because if you don't connect with the subject, you're never gonna get it.
Right. See, and so I wouldn't say I would say I'm an average intelligence. You know,
I don't know if you're average intelligence. You're a smart guy. I would say you're above average.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
I
yeah.
was totally fishing for that compliment.
Yeah, I know
I'm
you
just
were.
kidding.
I know, but like in general.
I wouldn't say it like I'm not like a super genius like my daughter is, right? but like I was smart enough to like I know how to float through things if I need to. You know, I'm really good at faking it till I make it. Like I can't tell you how many like book reports I did without reading the book, and I still got the highest.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at faking things. Like I actually have to understand what I'm doing. Yeah. Otherwise, I will be a wreck. Like me doing a presentation without preparing. Compared, well, now I'm okay, but when I got to college, I had to know what I was going to say before I said it.
Yeah.
But as I started doing more presentations, then I could be like, okay, let's just do this.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to take an improv class together.
Yeah?
Do they have those in Visalia?
I don't know. I don't really know what they have in Visalia. I guess I need to branch out more.
I want to look into that. I think you and I would enjoy that, and I think it'll actually help us out on our show, but it'll also help you out in life, in your presentations and stuff.
I think so. I think it'd be fun.
I took improv in high school. We did our drama class did a few like units on it, and it was a blast.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you guys just like throw out a subject and like had to work through that subject?
Yeah, well there's also improv games, but there's actually a lot of like, not science, but there's a way to do improv. Like for instance, like one of the rules of improv is never say no. So if you're doing a scene with somebody, like I'm doing a scene with you right now.
So you just continue in the bit.
You say, instead of saying no, like for instance, you say, Tim, the sky is pink. And if my answer was no, it suddenly just kills the whole idea, and now the scene's on the floor.
So then you have to react to the pink. What is that? Is that Pepto-Bismol?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You build on. You always take what your partner gives you and you build onto.
So it's kind of like me and Chris Cook. I don't know if we're improvising, but we're just doing random babbling.
I don't know if anyone knows you.
Yeah, we're just randomly babbling, right? That's what kind of happens sometimes.
Right. Well, and so the worst thing you do in improv is shut someone down. Because it kills the scene.
Interesting.
And so, if, like for instance, if you say something you say the sky is pink, my answer instead of like, no, it's not, it's blue. It's like, well, then I just threw away everything you just did.
Got it.
Right. Instead, I build on top of yours. It's pink. Oh no, they must be here. Who's here?
Yeah.
You know who.
Okay.
And then suddenly we're in this huge scene. You know.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of those kind of rules.
That does sound kind of fun.
And those kind of rules can actually help you out in life. Like.
Never shutting down someone.
Don't shut down people.
It's kind of like, okay, let's take this idea.
Take what you're doing and build on it.
Interesting.
See where it goes.
You know what? I need to apply that maybe more in my life. To stop shutting people down. Well, I don't know if I shut people down. I just think about the alternative.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I always take their premise. I'm like, well, what about the other premise?
Well, yeah, and you build on top of it. Or you take what they're saying and you just go. Yeah. We should find an improv class, though.
Like, where do you even look for
I don't know. I would see it.
Is there, like, a board? I don't go to college.
Well, so I do know, like, there used to be, like, I don't know, back in the day, like, there was, like, these, you know the companies that come in and they help businesses, like, help their coworkers relate with each other better.
So, like consultants?
Consultants, yeah. They come in and they try to increase office
productivity
morale
or
productivity. And
those are super interesting.
I know.
Because it's always
I've been through so many of those meetings.
Well, because it's always like, oh, we're gonna change so much, but then the company never does because the company's culture is like set by the top people, so they don't get that they're the problem, and they're like, no, I'm good at this, right?
And their answer is, well, if we change all the people below us, maybe then everything will be great.
And it's super funny too because the people. Like when someone says something that no, you're actually a bad communicator, and they're like, no, I'm a good communicator. Then you have a bunch of other people saying, no, I think you are.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Yeah, he's a great communicator.
That's super funny. All
right, we're gonna get into a bad area here. But what I was saying is, I think there's some consultants that they actually teach improv in workplace settings, and they teach you, and it kind of because it teaches you those kind of principles of not shutting down ideas and growing and helping each other out, because improv is very much a teamwork kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because if you have one person trying to be the star of an improv like scenario, then the whole thing doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Got it. So you have to kind of like, no, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the escape room almost. You know what's interesting? Like, have you been to the escape room?
I've been to one in Bakersfield.
We need to do that because it's really interesting how it takes different people's thought process to actually figure that whole thing out.
Yeah.
Because one person will be looking at a random place, and then you'll find something, and then the random thing that they found attaches to that.
I'm excited. Our youth camp that we're going to this year has an escape room.
Really?
Yeah,
That's fun.
I'm really kind of like excited about that one little aspect of it.
What was the first thought you thought of escape room? Like what did you actually think it was?
Well, I knew the premise before I went in.
Oh, see, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
So my first thought of an escape room was that they're going to trap me in a room and I have to get out. Right? So I was like, I'm going to go through the wall.
I'm bringing a hammer. For those of our listeners that don't know, escape rooms are, you solve puzzles.
Yeah,
right?
it's basically, it's a one big, giant, like, strategic puzzle. Well, I don't know if it's strategic.
And it's usually like one room, and there's like lots of clues everywhere. Like the one I went to, like we were in like this old-timey like apartment, and there was, I guess whoever lived in this apartment was like a bootlegger. What's it called when you bootleg alcohol? Moonshine.
You're a bootlegger.
Bootlegger. I guess that's what it is, huh?
Yeah.
That's the terms.
You're a bootlegger.
I was a bootlegger. It was during the Prohibition times.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so we had to find we had to get all the clues because there was clues of like how to pertaining to like the types of booze coming in and this type of, we had to go through the mail and look for certain correspondence and like match things up, and we had to, it was really
sounds
cool.
Fun. Ours was like a treasure one where like this lady died and now you had to find like her will or something, and you had to find her treasure that she left in this house or whatever.
That's cool.
And so we actually played Girls Against Boys, and then there was like a TV that they could help us with hints. We actually lost to the girls, but we didn't take any hints, and we finished like a couple seconds after them.
So you should have gotten like a time bonus or something.
We didn't.
Like
it was just
by then taking the hint, they should have gotten like set back like 2 minutes.
I think they may have gotten set back. Yeah, we should have just. We were almost there to beat them, but we just didn't. We couldn't figure out something. It was fun though. I had a blast.
Yeah, we should do an escape room. The problem is they cost a lot of money.
Not necessarily. Like,
the one we went to was like $25.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
not
bad for like
entertainment.
it's a whole night basically.
Right.
Like, well, not really. It's about an hour.
Yeah,
an hour of night. You spend that at a movie theater.
It. I know,
right?
It's worth it.
You think about how much you spend at a movie theater. It's outrageous.
I know,
and not just like the movie tickets. Those are increasing.
So, yeah. Do you think movie theaters? Do you think that's in our future?
You know what? No, with VR, I don't think so.
Oh, with VR, I didn't think about VR.
Yeah, because as soon as VR becomes really, really like affordable, and they're gonna start making you inside the theater.
Yeah.
Right, where you put it on and like you're in the movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's gonna start being completely different. Well, could you imagine being an extra in a movie as a VR person, where you're following around the main characters?
That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
Well, I was just thinking like. Because with like movie theaters, how weird, I'm getting a call. That never happens during our show. Whatever. People don't usually call me. But like movie theaters, it's like the worst of everything. Like, yes, you get a good size screen, good audio. But nowadays, like I've seen your TV, it's big enough. You know?
It is true.
And audio quality, it's easy. It's getting so much cheaper and easier to get good audio quality in homes.
So do you think like, just they'll phase out? Well, I don't know. I think with theaters there's an experience type thing.
I know, but I'm kind of over that already now.
Are you?
I really am. Like for instance, Cheryl and I watched a movie on Saturday. We watched it was called The Week Of. It's Adam Sandler's latest movie. But I know, don't judge me. It was actually really funny, and it wasn't like I like about Adam Sandler. It's funny. It's not too like there's like one raunchy scene in it.
Yeah.
But it's not like this complete like F-bombs everywhere throughout the whole movie.
I don't know. That kind of makes me laugh. Throughout. That kind of I don't know. I'm gonna admit it. It makes me laugh.
But so anyway, the cool thing about it is he's releasing these movies on straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
Like it's not even going to theaters.
Well, so I've heard that Netflix is actually going to purchase a theater.
Are they really?
Right. So
that way they can be like
they can consider for awards, right? Because
yeah.
if they own a theater, then they can release it in the theater and have it on Netflix on the same day.
Right.
So it's a good strategy, but I honestly think theaters may go to that Netflix model where they release it. I don't think it'll be a long time in the theater anymore. Right. You know what I mean?
I think good riddance. I'd rather watch I'd rather watch a movie at home. Because you don't have to worry about being late. You always have a good seat.
True.
You can be as comfortable as your home is comfortable. Right?
I don't know. There's something about
if
going,
you fall asleep, you can hit pause and rewind.
You know what I mean? Like, but it is like a good thing to go out.
So okay, so maybe it won't be completely extinct, but I don't think it needs to be as big of a thing as we make it. Still,
I don't know. There's something about going to watching a new Avengers: Infinity War in the theater and like hearing other people's reaction and like the laughter builds on other people. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like, you're intimate, you're and your wife, you don't have to worry about like your kid and things running around. Like, I don't know. I don't think it'll ever go away completely, but I do think it'll be just like rare.
I think
rare events,
and I'm okay with that.
I think I am. I think I'll miss it because I just love movies.
But I think, okay, what if like you could what if the new model was you?
I like big spaces.
Yeah.
So like I love going to theaters because they're so big, right? Whereas if like at my house, the living room is super small, so I feel I don't know. It just feels like.
Like you feel like you're going to an event is the idea.
Yeah.
Well, and what if movies became like more of an event kind of a thing? Like,
no, that'd be kind of cool.
Like, it's showing in this theater for 2 weeks. You know, instead of thinking every movie goes to the theater, like only the big titles will come, like Star Wars movies, Marvel movies.
That'd be an interesting model.
You know,
that'd be a really interesting model.
How much money is just waste? Like, another thing, wasted. Like, when you're in movie theaters, you have to buy their food, and you're spending another $30.
Here's how I would change the food. It's just get better food. Like, give me like a full course dinner, or like, you know what I mean? Because if you included dinner to where it's not crappy food and it's actually good dinner food, then you could spend longer time at the movie theater and not have to rush between dinner and then the movie.
Right. Well, there's some theaters like in Texas. I've been to a really good dinner theater in Texas. I loved it, and it's really good food, and I didn't mind paying. I think we paid like 20. Maybe, well, Cheryl and I split, but we paid like 20-something bucks.
See, I think they should move more to that model and kind of eliminate like
the crappy food,
the crappy like not good food. You know what I mean? Because
the nachos that are never good.
Their food looks
like,
good,
ugh.
And it's not ever good. It's like fast food. You know, it looks all super good on that menu, but then when you get it, it's all like smushed together.
And then you get home and you have so many regrets about it.
I don't like fast food. I was talking to Natalie. I was like, I don't like fast food. It's not great. I'd rather go to a sit-down restaurant any day of the week.
And it's almost cheaper nowadays. Mm-hmm. Seriously. I went to, last week sometime, I was like, do you know what, Cheryl? I just got to eat something real quick. I'm just going to go to Jack in the Box and grab me a dinner. And I got a medium. I didn't even go large. And it was $9.80 something. And I chose Jack in the Box where I could have gone to go order at my favorite Mexican restaurant and been out the same amount of money and had a much bigger meal and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And like actually liked it. Whereas like Jack in the Box was like, it was.
And what's interesting about fast food is there's a psychological effect where you feel just terrible.
You do.
You feel terrible about yourself. You feel terrible about what you just ate. It's never satisfying. It was good at the moment, but then it's like you have nothing but regret.
I think there's like an analogy here I can use like when I'm preaching sometimes in like
and it really is
like, sin is like fast food.
It is.
It makes you feel good for a moment, and then that moment is
because it does taste good, right? It tastes good on that initial bite. But there is a massive diminishing return aspect of fast food.
You just feel like crap.
Because the more you eat it, you're just like, this is not good. This was stupid.
Well, and then like every time we're hungry now, it's like, well, we're trying to budget better, and so we actually bought groceries. Or I say we, but Cheryl went and bought groceries. Yeah, she's a good wife, and I'm
terrible person.
I'm a terrible person, but she's taking care of us, and she went and got groceries, and it's now, like, we know it's going to be for dinner all day long. So when it comes to dinner time, we're not, what do we want? What do you want? What do you want? It's, that's how it's been, right? And and we decide on something, we both are not happy, and it ends up, Whereas when you cook for yourself, it does feel better.
Do you ever get to like the home cooked dinners and you're just like, I don't want that. So let's say chicken is on the menu, you're like, that doesn't sound good to me.
I know.
But I'm going to eat it because it's what's at home.
Do you know, though, I'm getting ready to resign to the idea that, it might not sound good at the moment, but I'll feel better afterwards.
Yeah, so I've been back on my 2,000 calorie a day thing because I'm just like, it's time. Like, stop being a punk and just start it. You know what I mean? But so it's like, it kind of sucks, and you have to really learn to be hungry. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest issue. And when I lost all my weight before, I was really cool with the hungry, but when you're starting out, and there's the reason you lose diets because you don't like that hungry feeling, and that's the reason you gain probably so much weight is like you don't like that hungry period.
Right.
Just embrace the hunger. I'm gonna start doing it.
Are you not snacking and stuff during the day?
So I'm trying to. I'll snack, but I'm limiting like what I snack on.
Right.
Like I'm eating a lot of Fiber One bars because those make me go to the bathroom. too, so it's a little like...
That makes you feel good also.
Yes. Actually, those do make you go to the bathroom. They're no joke.
I need to do something.
Yeah, it's just like time. Like, it's really annoying.
Well, I've said for the last 5 years I don't want to be the fat dad chasing around a toddler. And so now, here we go. My daughter's 2 months old now. She could be walking in, I don't know, she's a genius. She could be walking next month for all I know. Right? Yeah, I'm just kidding. But within a year, maybe, you know,
no, that's
she'll
true.
be walking. And
that's
so
really true.
I don't want to be, the fat dad. So I got to figure something out.
Yeah, no, like, for real. And, like, you know what, actually, I was listening to a podcast, and it was like a doctor, and it was Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about how, like, with obese people, their system is broken, and because a lot of our way we eat is based on diet, right?
Yeah.
And exercise, but most of it too is hormones. So the way your body functions internally and the way it processes those foods can be broken once you become obese. And it even said that you can eat the same diet as someone that's super healthy, right, and still gain weight because your hormones are messed up, and then if you add stress on top of that too, it makes it even worse. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to think about, like, how hormones have a big thing in your lifestyle, your health.
So what's his
general.
fix? Is there like certain therapies to do?
No, not necessarily. He really suggested doing your diet and things. He does this sort of intermediate fasting. Like, that's one of his big things.
I've heard a lot of things about that.
Yeah, where
I can't do that.
You go like 16 hours without eating, and then you just like eat whatever you want or whatever. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's the best option. He brought this case study where
that's been a big thing lately, like in Hollywood, is fasting diets where you fast for.
You know what's interesting though? I was thinking about the biblical aspect of fasting, and like how like it's a spiritual moment, but when you do it for another thing, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't think if you're doing a fast to lose weight, I don't know if you can count that as a spiritual thing.
No, like
the whole point of fasting is to give up something in order to give your devotion to God, right?
Yeah. But it's very interesting how like that's become a new trend when in reality, like, that's been a biblical standard for years, is to fast and to like give up that food, that nourishment. And now it's become like the new hot trend of we want to look super sexy. Let's go ahead and just not eat. Yeah. Right? It's very weird that we're just like cool with not eating now.
Well, I mean, go back 1 century and it's really common to find people not eating and for different reasons,
that's
right?
True. That's true.
And so humans aren't made to live in this glutton that we live in now.
We're definitely not meant to be so many people and so comfortable. I think we get a little too comfortable at times.
Yeah.
And he was talking about a case study about a man who fasted for 360 days, fasted a full year, and he was like 400 pounds and got down to like 170.
Jeez.
Yeah, by just not eating.
Was he taking vitamins?
He was doing water, maybe some supplements. But he was that's all he did. That's kind of crazy. He didn't talk. He was interested about what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
And this doctor, he's a longevity doctor, so he's focused on, like, that's his form of medicine, is the longevity of life.
Yeah.
And he said that there is no evidence that the diet you have is basically going to have a longevity life. You may improve the life you currently live, but it doesn't necessarily give you longevity. It was a very interesting podcast. I would suggest you listen to it.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but you'll find he's like a biker. So once they start talking about, he was a bicyclist, and like he's done swimming and things of that nature. He was I think he's Iranian, I think so, or Egyptian. Sorry, Egyptian. Very interesting.
Very cool.
Good podcast. Well, look at us shouting us other podcasts.
I know.
We
should be sponsored by Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan reaches out because talking about your podcast on our podcast. Tim, what's going on in your life? It's been 2 weeks.
I know.
We're getting very inconsistent with our podcasting at the moment.
Well, the funny thing is Andrew and I actually got together one day last week to podcast, like literally like on time. It was like on Monday.
We had the whole production set up.
We had all the lights. We had everything ready to go.
Yeah, we were good.
And then we got into a deep conversation that we felt like we couldn't record. we keep doing this to ourselves.
Sometimes we get into intimate conversations that doesn't do any good on camera.
Right.
You know? Which I think it's good because we're still getting together.
It's good for our friendship.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Because I enjoyed that evening.
I agree. We got even theology at that evening.
Yeah, we did.
Very, very good conversation. Very good.
I read, speaking of theology, I read someone say, "What is denominations?" And they said that a denomination is a group that decides on which parts of the Bible they don't believe.
That's true.
That.
That's true.
All right. So one thing I kind of want to talk about on upcoming shows and whatnot, as a kind of not really a filler topic, but a topic that I would like us to explore. So Jordan Peterson, who wrote this amazing book, which I haven't read yet, I really want to read. So I guess I should not.
How is it an amazing book if you're endorsing it?
It's
already?
Amazing because everyone's talking about it.
But who is everyone?
Oh, everyone I listen to. But okay, well, this book's making the rounds. I'm actually going to get this book pretty soon.
I bought it. I haven't.
And then if I think it's good, I'll endorse it. But anyway, this book is called 12 Rules for Life. And the idea of the book is giving you basic building blocks on this is how you should live your life, kind of the idea. And the cool thing about Jordan Peterson, he's a psychologist, really smart man. Anyway, he wrote this book based off of this blog post that he wrote a couple years ago. And the title of the post is, "What are the most valuable things everyone should know?" And there's 40 different items on this list.
Let's pick number 27.
Really? It's not numbered. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, just scroll down to about 27. Give it your best guess and just pick one.
All right. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Interesting. I like that because I guess it really depends on where you're at on that day, right? Because if you're worse than yesterday on your baseline, then I guess it shows you need to correct.
Yeah, you need to correct it. Yeah.
But if you're doing better than you were yesterday, then you're like, I'm doing good.
Well, so I think the really good thing about this sentence, though, is not to who someone else is today. Because, for instance, I get on Instagram and I see someone doing similar stuff as me and they're doing really good, mm-hmm. right? And I'm like, it's really easy for me to jump into comparing myself to that person.
Yeah. That's true.
It's really easy for me to say, man, it's not fair. They're given this, this many advantages. If I had resources like this person, I would totally be able to do that 10 times better. And you get into this weird competitive and competing kind of mindset when really, you shouldn't compare yourself with other people.
That's true. Because you really think about it, everyone's different and everyone is struggling with different things, right? So even when you think they're successful, they could not be, right? They could be totally different and they could be struggling with something that you're not.
Yeah.
Right? They could have some type of form of illness in their life that they're dealing with.
Or even maybe they're struggling with finding a romantic partner or, stuff like that you don't even know about.
That is super true. It really is a true thing.
Everyone has their struggles.
You think about one aspect of life, someone's doing maybe better than you.
Yeah.
But then you're maybe doing better than them in 3 other ways.
I know. Well, and so I guess the point is we shouldn't compare ourselves with others.
I don't know why we even do I don't know why we do as a society where we really are a groupthink people,
right?
Where we try to be well, he's doing it, and I want to do it too.
I know.
You know what I mean? Why can I be like him?
Well, and that's why I think God puts into the 10 Commandments that don't covet your neighbor's wife, right? Don't
mm-hmm.
covet. Don't want. It's not necessarily you. I heard someone talk about this recently. It's not about you should want if someone has a nice car, it's okay to want a nice car. Mm-hmm. What you shouldn't want is you want your neighbor's car
or a better car than your neighbor,
right?
Wait, I don't know. Is that good?
I think it's okay to want a better car, but what I'm saying is you shouldn't want your neighbor's car. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't covet it to the point where it's unfair that they have it and you don't.
Okay, so I think it's more getting into the aspect of why did they get it? They don't deserve it.
Exactly.
I think that's more a little different conversation.
I think it's dangerous.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I think you can be I want that car. That's a cool car.
I think it's fine.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. So
but as long
is that coveting then?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Right?
I think coveting more is I want it and they shouldn't have it, and that's why I think the scripture even says. I probably should look up the scripture before I try to quote it, but In fact, I'm going to do that.
I think it's a Ten Commandment, dude.
I know. Is it 10 commandments? Well,
yeah, it's thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife or
is it
thy neighbor.
But then you can get into the full text of it because, let's see, Exodus, what chapter?
20.
Really? For sure? You knew that? You're so good.
You didn't know it was Exodus chapter 20?
Not by heart.
Did you not memorize the Ten Commandments as a kid?
I memorized them, but I didn't like.
From the Bible or from like a different page?
We had a song.
Exactly.
Number 1, we just begun. God should be first in your life. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's.
That's very interesting because it is saying you shouldn't want anything your neighbor has.
Right.
Basically, or just not covet it. What does covet?
What does covet mean?
Well, I think you'd have to jump into the Hebrew of what that word actually means, because I think what that's insinuating is don't want it so bad that you're willing to do bad things to other people for that stuff, right? Because isn't that what leads to murder, right? Because if you really are coveting something, you're willing to take it, and regardless of the circumstances,
right.
You're willing to make them or think ill thoughts towards them, right? I don't know why we get like that, or we're like I get it like that too. Why do we get to the point where we're just like we're angry at other people for doing good things or succeeding,
or for being well off, or being
like,
blessed?
Why are we mad that someone else has more blessings?
I think it really does come down to it's a heart issue. Like I was reading my study Bible right here. It says, when a person covets, he allows the desire for that which is coveted to govern his relationship with other people.
That's interesting, because so he puts that thing as the most important thing in his life. Right. So if your neighbor has the best car and you really covet that thing, then that really means that car is the most important thing. You're like, I don't care what else happens.
And you've done this before in your life, right? Yeah. I've done this before in my life. Like suddenly every interaction with that person becomes about kind of centered, even if it's not. It's a little bit in your mind or in your heart centered around that thing that's between.
Yeah, it's really weird too, because this is something that I think is human nature. Because then you becoming like this phony person,
right?
Where you're always trying to bring back the conversation to this thing and kind of figure out how this person got it. You know what I mean? And well, why do you?
And it muddies the water.
Yeah, it really strains the relationship with people.
Well, and then this goes on to say, this may become a motivation for murder, stealing, or lying to either attain the desired thing or to keep it from someone else. Because of the way that coveting values a particular thing over trust and obedience to the Lord as your provider, that's also a breach of the first commandment, which the Apostle Paul makes clear when he refers to coveting as idolatry. So.
It really is, and if you really break that down to like a more like our level, it really it's doing you no good.
Right.
It's not even benefiting you at all to do this action, right? Because you're not really even getting higher. You're just stuck at the same level where you never achieve anything.
Right. And God can bless you with so much even more if you just stop fixating on this one thing.
Yeah, I agree.
We happen to do this. We get this idea set in our mind that we want this thing, and God, I really want this thing. And the whole time God's saying, let go of that thing so I can give you something better than that thing.
It's really interesting.
I did this with relationships throughout my life, like looking back, even junior high, high school, and when I started college, there'd be certain relationships I'd like really want, and I'd do anything to get them. And guess what? Tim never got the girl, but guess what? I got the girl that mattered.
Yeah, that's
true. What I'm saying? And thank God for all those heartbreaks in the past, because I'm so blessed now. And we spend so much energy and time wanting this thing, and God, why don't you bless me with this thing? And then, guess what? He has a better plan for us anyway.
That is really true. You know what's interesting, and I used to do this a lot in my life, is I used to have this almost chip on my shoulder thing, where like, and I don't know if this is necessarily coveting, but this is like, I'll show you what you missed out on. You know what I mean? Like, I'll show you. Yeah. I don't know what. Maybe it's vindictiveness, but it's more of like, it's the opposite. I feel like of covetousness is like, you know who I am. It's like pride, this weird pride, vindictive like thing where like I'm gonna do better than you. Right. I don't think it's necessarily covetousness, but I think you can go through a bad place in that realm too, where it's like I'm gonna show you up. Right. Isn't that weird? Is that covetousness?
I think it is because you're putting so much value in comparing your blessings with other people's.
That's interesting,
right?
Yeah.
And when we just need to forget about comparing ourselves all the time.
I agree.
Right? If we're secure in your identity, you don't need to be comparing. right? Comparison to other people.
Is that comparing though? Because like I feel like, and even with sports, like that's a thing you use, that chip on your shoulder to motivate you to work even harder.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I get that you are fixating on this one thing, and that's not necessarily the most healthy, but it does breed almost success in a way.
Right. Well, I think you can crave success.
Is it like, can you? Let's talk about that. Is it okay to crave success?
I think so. Because if you're not craving success, what are you craving? Like you want to be successful.
Do you though?
The problem is how the question I think is how do you measure success?
That's true. Like
is success money and power and fame? Then if that's what you're going after, then that's probably not good. But if success is bringing out your best, I don't think that's bad to crave that.
To strive for that.
To do your best.
I would agree with that. That's very interesting. Very interesting. I had a thought, but I forgot it mid-conversation.
Well, I just had a thought just now. I can't remember who I was listening to, and they talked about how, parents were trying to teach our children to do their best, but the question we're always asking our children is, what did you do? Instead of, did you do your best at it? So your kids come home from school and say, well, what did you do today? Or how did you do on that? How did you do on that test? Or how did you do in class or on that project? When the real question should be, did you do your best on the project? You know what I'm saying? If we're really trying to teach our children to do their best.
So what if the question is no?
Well, then
should you?
It's a character defining moment.
Should you encourage them to do more? Or what if they're like, no, I want to?
Well, then I think
I don't have a problem with.
I think that's where follow-up questions come. Is you need to say, well, why didn't you do your best? Because I know I don't do my best all the time.
Like then you come with, because I just didn't care.
I was lazy.
I just not necessarily lazy. It's just like it didn't matter to me.
Well, then as a parent, I think you probably, if it's an important thing, you probably need to teach them why it does matter. Or ground them until they understand why it
doesn't matter.
Right.
I was thinking about trends. Do you find yourself a contrarian?
Like a contrarian as far as like you buck trends. Like you're like I don't want to do that. I kind of like to be trendy.
Do you?
Even though I'm not. Like I like the idea of thinking I could be trendy. But like I never want to spend money on clothes, so
I honestly think I'm some type of contrarian because I really just like.
Well, I know you're a contrarian,
right?
Just in conversation.
Just in conversation, I'm the type of person that's been like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, you want to go so against groupthink. Like you want to be like.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, but also a lot of times it can be bad. Why is that? Why do people become contrarians?
Well. Are we gonna turn this into a therapy session? For
Let's do it. Like, because I don't. Is that bad? Is that a bad thing to be a contrarian? Because I really buck against same ideas or status quo.
Well, but I think if you're just being a contrarian, just be a contrarian, then I think it probably isn't very healthy. Like if that's I am Andrew, I am the contrarian, therefore I'm not going to conform.
Well, what if it's just the way you think?
An anarchist,
right? Because you just think differently.
That's fine.
Right? Because sometimes I'm just like, well, I don't know if that's true.
Right.
Let me think about it how I want to think about it.
No, I think that's fine.
Right?
I think it's fine. It's good to be a person that questions things. I really don't want people to... I want everyone to think for themselves, right? I've always told... Whenever I taught classes or whatever, or, at church or anything else, I always tell them, don't take my word for it. I try to bring you what I find here in the Bible, but I'm just one person.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. That is true.
Go read the Bible. I'd rather everyone in my class, I'd rather them read the Bible themselves and then come back with me with their ideas, and then we can work together, right? But the group think thing is, to me, it doesn't do good.
I had this English teacher, and I think this is where it really stemmed from, one of her quotes was, "Don't be a sheep."
Yeah.
Don't just follow.
Right.
And I'm thinking about it now. Maybe that really sunk in, because I'm like, that's true. Don't be a sheep. Why would I want to be a sheep?
Right.
Just so I can be cool with all the other sheep?
Yeah. See, and I would like all of my students in youth group to really understand that. I would like my children to understand that. Don't let other people
influence you. Yeah, like I never understood peer pressure because maybe I was more afraid of my mom than I was the peer pressure, right? Because I was like, my mom can hit me. You guys can't hit me. But I don't think I've ever been peer pressured into something.
No.
unless I really wanted to do it, like stealing.
Even with your internal like group of friends, like your like maybe it's not to do something like
bad, but maybe maybe I shouldn't be so like dead set. I probably have, honestly, if you really think about it, because there's certain things you don't want to do, and then they're like, oh, come on, and then that's technically peer pressure, right? But as far as negative, I guess, peer pressure, I don't think I've ever felt for that.
No, yeah, I like, for instance, we're all going drinking, let's go drink. Like, really, I don't care about that.
Yeah, no, you can take rocks, bro.
But yeah, I would hope. Yeah, I want my children to be well informed. And my daughter's a genius, so I'm sure she's already.
Yeah, no, she's a contrarian. Well, because if you think about it, most contrarians, like, they do different things a different way.
But see, is there value in being a contrarian for contrarian's sake?
I don't know, because like what is you were saying on an anarchist, but like what do you mean anarchist?
Well, anarchists, like, they want to go against all social structure and do their own thing, and everyone's for themselves, kind of a thing.
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thought process, though, right? Like, I think like they really want everyone to be responsible for themselves.
So like, you have a libertarian,
yeah, right,
but then you take a libertarian too far,
and then it becomes an anarchist. Yeah, and I agree. Anarchist. I think there does need to be some type of structure, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it's just chaos. But then, like, you think about it, why are we not all responsible for ourselves in that aspect?
Yeah.
Of not just in politics, but in general. Why do we need?
You need to watch, and by you, I mean you and all the viewers, whoever's viewing the show. Ben Shapiro did a really good speech this week at Liberty University, and he talks about the value of individualism versus the collective, and he does this really good, like, it actually talks about the Ten Commandments, and it's such a good, like, I think you'd really appreciate this speech. And he talks about the importance of treating people as individuals and people taking individual responsibility instead of this whole treating people as a collective group of people and allowing people to shirk responsibility because they're in a collective group.
You know what, that's very interesting, because I actually got into a conversation about this on Twitter, but then I deleted my comment because I was like, I don't know if I'm adding to the correct conversation. Like, it seems like there's never extinguishers in conversation. There's always fuel.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes I try to be an extinguisher. But the thought was it came out to be like something white versus black. And I thought, well, how do Mexicans fit in? and it was a serious thought, because it was like, are Mexicans considered white people? No, right?
No.
The question is no. And so then how do brown people fit into this narrative?
Right.
And then why do we even talk about skin color in that relation, right? Because black versus white is very polarizing. But then where do these other where did brown people fit into that equation, right?
Well,
we weren't a part of that atrocity, I guess, if you think about it, if we want to be technical.
Right.
But then do our opinions not matter at this point in time?
Well, a lot of the problems is you start getting into this fight of intersectionality and white privilege and all this other kind of stuff, and the problem is you have, because the left's big idea is that, because of white privilege, whites have it better in America over any colored people, whether it's brown, black,
white.
So
then why do they use the narrative as white and black, right? Because like what, and I get the black argument.
The problem is if you say it's because white privilege that white people are doing better, and it's not this whole socioeconomic problem. The problem is you have Asians who you statistically look at, they're doing way better even than the white people, right? And you can't say that Asians have a privilege because they were put in internment camps in the early 1900s, right? So they had it really bad in America too for a long time, especially after the war, and so then the problem becomes something more. They
also built railroads too,
right?
Right.
So Asians didn't have it well in America, but yet they're doing better now, and it's because of. I really think it all comes down to breakdowns of the family and socioeconomics, and
I would agree, but
mismanagement.
I was thinking, because this is a hot topic, right?
Right.
So I was really thinking about if there is systematic racism, right?
Right.
And then what fuels people, and I think in inner cities, I think you can look, maybe not systematic racism, but there are things that are happening in the inner city that people just aren't solving, right? And how do you solve these things? And we can say it's education or whatever, and it probably does help. But the fact of the matter is, it's been years, and none of these problems are ever solved, right? So there has to be some type of point of system where, if these people feel like there is a systematic racism, maybe we should stop and look at it, right? Because it is...
Well, so the problem, the people that are complaining of systematic racism, the problem is then that what you look and say, well, what are you arguing for then? Like, if there's been a systematic problem, what are you arguing for? And what they argue for in a lot of cases is to create a new system. Yes, right? And it's like, well, then who's gonna be, like, whenever you create a system, there's always going to be, if you try to attack something with a system, like, there's always problems with the system. And so then we're going to be looking at a new set of victims in 30 years and say, okay, now we need a new system because this system broke.
So are you saying that, like, there's just systems that will never fix everything?
Right.
I don't know if I necessarily buy that.
But so I'm not saying we don't need new systems. I think we should always be reforming our systems. But I think we need to teach personal responsibility, and we need to attack it at individual levels.
I would agree with that. And now let's take it to an economic standpoint, right?
Right.
Let's look at this issue of the inner city, right? There's a big problem with the inner city that's not being changed, right? And there's killings happening in the inner city that no one really talks about. And what is the problem? I would say the problem is probably that there's a cycle of prison going on there, right? Where people, and what is stemming that system of prison? Right, then we have to be opportunity. What is the opportunity? Well, there's no longer factories in those things because we move things to China, right? Sure. So how do we figure out things to become where there is opportunity, and not just small opportunity where you can grow out of that opportunity, right? Because there is a systematic racism where the black males go to prison more. Why? Because they don't have a dad or a father in the home. Right. And that's not all. It's just statistically, right? So then, how do they make money for their mom that's struggling? How do they get better in their life? Maybe turn to drugs, right? When they turn to drugs, they get caught in the cops. Then we have this war on drugs, because that's the way to go.
Yeah, the problem and so the reason, blacks are jailed more is not necessarily because, like, I don't think it's not even a race thing, though, if you think about it.
I think it's a circumstance thing.
It's a socioeconomic thing. It's the neighborhoods they're living in. The reason why blacks are in prison more is because there's more crime rate among black people, and this is a statistic thing. But I don't think it's because of their skin color. I think it's because of the neighborhoods they grow in. I don't know if it's necessarily...
there has to be some form of skin color to be... I don't mean that, like, people are racist, but there is some form of skin color, because the most people that live in the inner cities are black, right? And or brown, or so there has to be something with skin color.
Why don't they move out?
I don't know. Maybe they can't.
Or like no mobility?
Maybe not. So why is there so many people packed in a city?
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's a good thing to be packed in cities.
No.
I don't think that's good for population to be so stacked up on each other. I think there was a reason why in biblical times it was to spread out.
Yeah.
I don't think people should bunch up ever. Because once you start bunching up, then you start getting all these problems.
Right.
So there has to be something that there's no mobility to go anywhere else.
Cities form, and you said factories. A lot of those factory workers need to live near the factory.
Yeah.
And the more factories you get condensed in certain areas,
city, then that's how the cities become.
People moved in.
And which I totally agree, and I understand that system. But then that factory gets eliminated, and now that city's gone, right? Now those people just there.
Now the jobs opportunities are gone.
So
what
do you do?
So what's left is poverty.
I think they're very complex situations, and I think it's social economic, and I think some of it may be seen as racism and systematic racism, because it doesn't seem like there's any other options but to go to crime, right? And then crime regurgitates more prison. And
see, I don't know why race has to get involved in this, because I think if you did the same thing with white people, it'll be the same thing. If you did the same thing with Mexican people, it'll be the same thing.
I agree, but it does seem to be more black people per capita, or statistically, are convicted more, right? And I think it has to do with your juries, the jury of your peers. Right, you're more likely to get convicted if you are black. That's a statistical thing, and I don't necessarily think it's racism. I think it's just when people have biases in life. That's a general thing.
So yeah, that's implicit bias. That's what Starbucks is doing and they're doing implicit bias training and stuff. And I think that was a thing years ago. I don't think it's a thing now.
You don't think so? Because like you're more trusting of a person if they do look like you. Think about men and women. Men are more likely to trust another man than they are trust a woman.
Yeah, I don't trust women.
That's just a gender bias right there.
Yeah.
Now think about someone that you've been around your entire life. You're more likely to trust someone who looks like you,
right?
Because it's easier. You can understand them. You can relate to them. Now you bring someone that doesn't look like you, different culture, different thing. You're gonna have a bias automatically. Right. I think that's just human nature.
Yeah.
You're right. And I don't think it necessarily means spirited a lot of times. I just think people don't educate themselves or even get to know
about
other
their
people.
implicit biases.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's where I
that
think
could be like a human
it boils
nature
down.
thing. But well, then that goes to my whole point where I don't think we need to have jury of peers anymore. I think we need to have professional juries.
So what do you? How does that work?
Well, here's the deal. I don't think, for instance, like I was in a jury a couple years ago over a drunk driver, and like I don't think most of the people in the jury we're not educated enough on how courtroom, like I'm in a courtroom once every 6-7 years, right?
For jury duty.
Yeah, for jury duty. Yeah, I don't know how well the defense was or how well the prosecution was, like.
But you understand the arguments, right?
Barely.
Well, see, to me, maybe it's just my weirdness, right? Because I have this thing with power. Right, and I don't like when there's an imbalance of power. Right. So I don't think all cops are bad. I just think there's an imbalance of power between an individual's testimony and a police officer's testimony. Right. More people are likely to believe the cop, right? Because that's their bias and they believe. Whereas me, I'm like, well, how do I know this guy's character?
Well, see, but if you were a professional juror, you'll learn to. When you would be on a jury more often, and
do you think we can eliminate bias? Do you think there's an ability of a human person to eliminate bias? I think a professional
jury could.
Really?
See, I think you actually get more issues of bias if you go out to jury of peers all the time.
Interesting. I don't know. It does kind of feel like...
And then I think it would change the whole courtroom scenario where instead of trying to win jurors, you're just trying to get the truth out. You know?
But then,
because a lot of time the DA they spend the whole time trying that they don't even know, they don't care if the guy's guilty or innocent. They're more caring about if they can sway the jury so they can beef up their numbers.
That is true. See, and
right?
I think that's a problem in itself, and that's where you get a lot of systematic racism. There's a lot of
DA.
There's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like capitas. You know what I mean? Not what's the word I'm looking for when they're trying to write tickets?
Crap.
What is that word? Where it's like it's not a milestone, but it is.
No,
it's like a quota.
Quota.
You got to hit your quota.
You're killing me on that word.
Well, and it's very interesting because a lot of times we base pay off of amount of convictions that happen.
Right. Well,
isn't that weird?
In district attorney's office, they're voted in, and so voters like to see more convictions.
Yeah, and which is very weird because it's not necessarily that those people are more guilty. It's
right.
just that they're pushing the case that they have against them,
right.
and that's just my general problem with the courtroom. Like I love arguments and I love lawyers and things like that.
So I think you'd actually be for a professional jury.
I think I might. I just don't know.
Well, for instance, my mom was on a case a few years ago, and it was a murder case, and it all came down to, I think the jury ended up letting, the jury couldn't decide, right? What's it called when they get stuck?
Hung jury.
Hung jury. They ended up going to a hung jury or something like that because one juror
wasn't convinced beyond reasonable doubt because they didn't understand reasonable doubt, right? Because reasonable doubt is, well, of course, we weren't there, we didn't see the murder actually happen, there's no videotape of the actual killing, but it's pretty reasonable what this guy that had his fingerprints on the weapon, who was in the area at the time, who is known to do all these other things, it's really reasonable to understand that it's him that would have done it. But this one jury, because they didn't have enough evidence of, that juror himself wasn't in the scene at the time, of course you can have doubt, anything could have happened. But to me, isn't
reasonable doubt.
Isn't that the job on the prosecutor, right? Isn't
teach
their
the jury?
job, because you're innocent until proven guilty, right?
Right.
Isn't that the job, is that you really have to present everything?
Well, he got all the other 11 jurors to agree.
Yeah, but then
right?
he
failed
in communicating.
because it could have been a bad juror. That's what it all comes down to.
It could have been
a bad juror,
or it could have been that you had a bunch of other jurors that were group thinkers, right? So I think everyone has a different perspective on life. How do you fix that? You can't fix that.
But with a professional jury, like they learn how to be a jury, right? They learn what reasonable doubt is.
Well, maybe we should just have all of our citizens go through some type of jury school.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know if I like the professional jury because then
what is that? Do you think people are really freer? Like, do you think you have more rights with a peer jury?
I do.
I feel like back in the day when more people were more
because I think it really depends on your. I think it depends on your lawyer. I think it depends on how much money you have spent on your lawyer.
Well, see, that's not fair.
Well, I know it's not fair, but that's the system we're at, right? If you want to eliminate courts in general. Or do you want to be able to... Because I feel like there's a flawed system in our civil court cases, right? Because it all depends on the best lawyer you have.
Right.
If you have someone that can argue and really put reasonable doubt in the person's mind, right? Then whatever.
See, and that's why we need a professional jury, because they know to look...
But then what if you start building relationships with the lawyers and the jury, right? Because obviously there's someone doing it continually.
Well, then it needs to be like this rotating thing.
So then how do you do that?
Well, like, for instance, if you're a professional juror, you're not always in, like, Tulare County. You go through a bunch of counties in the state.
So then it makes you travel to different places.
Well, yeah, I would imagine that professional jurors get paid.
So then what do they get paid? And is their social economic thing higher or is it lower?
Well, at that point,
then you think about it, how are they going to relate to someone?
But see, it's not the same as getting a jury of peers because jury of peers, you have to make sure you get the right, what's it called? Type of people.
Well, it's the mix of people,
right? Whereas a professional jury, you trust they have to get certified somehow that they're good at being a jury.
I see. I disagree with that whole premise because then you're certifying someone's opinion that's
good.
Not.
It's not. Well,
but it is.
But it's more of like that they understand the process and that they understand. Maybe we'll send them through implicit bias training. We'll send them through.
But who's likely going to go through that training?
Well, whoever's hired to be a jury.
More affluent people will probably get that.
That's fine.
That's fine, but so now they won't understand the lower social economic person.
Do you really need to understand the plight of lower social economic people?
Do you need to understand the criminal?
Whether or not they broke the law?
Yeah, I think so, because
the law doesn't care about skin color, race, economics.
But it does.
The law is the law.
Sometimes it does.
So you're saying that people who have a harder time in life deserve to kind of to break the law?
No, but what you're saying is you may paint a picture that this person did it because of his circumstance, right?
Well, see, a professional jury would understand.
Would they? Or would they be more easily swayed to your side?
I see. Well, that's the difference, though, because they're not a jury of peers, so their job is to be impartial.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you could pay someone to be impartial.
Well, we pay judges to be impartial.
That's true, I guess. I don't know. Judges have a lot of power.
They do have a lot of power.
That to me is, and the Supreme Court has a lot of power.
Too much power.
I just always have this thing about balance of power.
Right.
Like I freak out and I really get anxiety around police officers because there's an imbalance of power there where I know that my word will not be trusted.
Right.
And they won't care about my character.
See, I think that's an internal thing, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just how I grew up, right?
Right.
So if a lot of people grew up like that, and I'm brown, and if you're black and have that same thing, then you're really scared all the time.
Even if it's a brown cop that comes at you?
Yeah, because it doesn't matter because there's an imbalance of power. To me, it's more the police officer.
Well, see, I was raised like, police, you respect them,
Mm-hmm.
and so in that case, if a police questions me, I don't like get mouthy with them. I don't like, this is the answer, sir.
No, great, right? and I don't either. But I have this inherent fear that if I say the wrong thing, they're going to automatically try and get me.
Well, I feel that way too.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's not good?
Well,
it's not good to have this system where if you mess up in saying one word or you react a certain way, subconsciously, that automatically your life is threatened.
Well, but here's the deal: like, you're not going to. Like, there's always going to be.
I know.
There's always going to be imbalances of power throughout life.
That's why I think system is broken. And you can't. I don't know if you. I'm not saying replace it. I'm saying there's not a way you can.
So
fix
what
it.
You have to learn is how to deal with it yourself, and so individuals need to learn how to deal with it themselves, and so individuals need to learn that if you find an imbalance of power, then find your place in that imbalance, right?
I guess.
Fighting back, the violence is not going to help the situation.
I would agree. I would agree that violence is not the issue, and Martin Luther King, Gandhi have all shown that violence is never the way. right? You can accomplish more with nice and loving people.
So, like, the whole premise of having a police system is to create an imbalance of power. That's the whole point of it.
I don't like it.
Like, but then what you're wanting is like what's the alternative? Anarchy?
I don't know.
Like we as a society have gotten together and say we have a police force and we give them more power than we give ourselves.
And I don't like giving up power as an individual.
Well, you need to live in the country or something.
I need to live. Well, see, because I have a constitution.
Right.
Right. So and I agree that like we're giving up, but I never like giving up power.
But what rights are you giving up to the police? Like
reasonable doubt. Being treated like you're a suspect before you're even a suspect. I feel like police, and they get a bad rap, and I understand, and it's a tough job, right? You're freeing your life all the time,
right?
And that's something I don't understand. But there's this thing where they're more suspicious, and they think you're guilty before you are guilty,
right.
and that's just my problem.
And you're afraid of the quotas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, there's okay. Yeah, quotas in general just need to go.
Right, and so but how do you do that? How do you justify the pay?
Well, see,
that's the weird system.
Like quotas in every system are stupid. Quotas in school systems are stupid. Quotas in jobs are stupid. Like it's never like we need to do our jobs based on whether or not we're doing the job, not based on how many. Like the problem is that people are choosing the wrong key performance indicators.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and I agree. I definitely agree.
Right.
And it's because it's a voted position. People want results.
Right.
What are results?
Yeah.
No crime.
This all comes down to is middle management. It's these middle managers in the middle that are making these decisions. Okay, we need to have this many arrests in order to meet this metric, right?
Yeah.
And you're not helping anything.
Think about the war on drugs too.
Yeah.
Right. And it really did affect. And I'm not saying it's like drugs are good. I'm not advocate for drugs, but it really did attack one specific race because they were doing it more, right?
Right.
So they were doing it, and now you've created this system where
fatherlessness,
locked up and where it's continually happening,
yeah.
And now you're coming to the point in time where like marijuana is becoming something that's not attacked of the war on drug anymore, right?
Right.
Now you have all these people that have been in prison for years because of this marijuana charge, right? Isn't that weird that we're coming to a point in society where it's like this, oh, that's okay, we're fine with it. But now you've maybe ruined some people's lives for years because of this war on drugs that was started.
Right.
Very interesting. Like, all this is fascinating to me.
It is fascinating. Another quota thing that recently so you know the Parkland shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's come out recently that the Broward County Sheriff's Department had a deal with the school district they all decided together they wanted to lower the amount of arrests of students made. And so they made this deal and they set a key performance indicator. They set a metric saying we want to lower the amount of arrests. And so what they did is when students acted up or did something illegal, instead of arresting them, they'd turn them over to the school and let the school do the punishment.
That's interesting.
And so if you look, there's charts now showing that from this year to, I think, 2017, it shows arrests for misdemeanors down like 100%. Arrests for felonies down like 30%. Arrests for, and then it said there's another category, which I don't know what the other is, down this many percent. And so their numbers showing that they went down, but yet they had this kid who wasn't arrested, came and shot up the school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so like these people are now coming against the sheriff's department. They're wanting him to resign, the sheriff, saying, okay, you made this stupid deal. And yeah, less kids are being arrested, but should they have been arrested?
I don't know, like, because then
I'm not saying they should be imprisoned. Like, I'm not saying like the whole like war on drugs thing, but they should have been arrested. They should have been stopped.
Yeah, I agree, but it's all the issues are so complex.
It's
right,
all complex.
And it's not like you can look at it from one angle. You really have to look at it from all the other angles.
But you got to see though, like the reason they made this decision to lower a number.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the problem with all this. Like, we got to change the system. We got to do this in order to lower.
Do you
or
think
raise
capitalism has a big portion of that, of our KPIs, our key, like, because we're very capitalistic, and I love capitalism, but could that be that we're so focused on growth and revenue, and like that we really want to, you know what I mean, increase everything? Do you think that has a problem?
I think pure capitalism, there's not a problem with it. the problem is we're not in a pure capitalistic society. We have all these pressures, and we have, like, for instance, government money. Like, I think the reason they were trying to do this is so that they can get more government money if they were able to lower this number, right? And so it's always like the wrong pressure. It's not pressures from the market. It's pressures from the government, or it's pressures from the wrong areas that are causing the market.
Well,
to do weird
what's
things.
interesting though is, like, how do you just, like, cops are services, right? Fire departments are services,
Right.
So how do you increase their money, right? Because it's a service.
Right.
Do you, like, how do you even judge that they're doing good on their service, right? Because you don't know, like, you can't tell unless you have some type of performance indicator.
Yeah, you need a
right? So it's so complex.
You need a performance indicator, but you can't be tied to it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it almost needs to be like, you need a performance indicator, and you also need, like, an overall, like, you need a poll from the people
Very
in the
interesting.
district that they're serving, or something like that.
And I think this is why it's so complex, and things maybe aren't done in Washington very well. Is because,
I know things aren't done in Washington.
Well, yeah, but, like, if you think about it, these aren't easy issues.
They're not easy
They're
to
very
fix.
complex.
Right.
And when you try to fix them one way, you unleash 8 different problems another way.
Right.
It's the broken glass theory.
Well, and that's why. So, you know, you talked about how we give up our power, and the problem is, for so many years we've been pushing our power up. We've been pushing it up. First, we pushed it to Congress, then we pushed it to the executive, then we pushed it to the Supreme Court. Well, in order for us to have freedom, we need to be pulling power down.
Yeah.
Right? We need to give more power to our local legislators. We need to give more power to our cities and our counties and our state. And that way we can be closer to the decision makers for us. Right? We shouldn't be so worried about getting federal money. We should be worried about pooling our state money and getting things done here. You know? And because the further away we push our power, the less freedom we have as individuals.
I agree. You know what the fix is? Robots. Across the board, robots.
Well, they will kill us all one day. That's one way to fix it.
I think that's a good way to end this.
I think so too. Andrew, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
This one was a good conversation.
This was really, I think we went into 10 million different areas on this one.
I really enjoyed that last portion. We talked a lot about it. Hot topic issues.
I hope it was easy to track for our listeners.
It may not have been, because we were really rabbit holing.
All right, well, thanks for joining us this week on Still Moving Podcast, episode number 22. We'll have the next one out probably within 2 weeks, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully we get more soon.
All right.
See you guys.
See you later. Hope you enjoyed the talk and the music started playing.
Yeah, I have to go to the bathroom.
I'm talking.
So can we?
Is that why we're ending this?
Yeah,
thing?
I gotta really go.
All right. Oh, I didn't even play the outro music yet. Here's the outro music. That's awkward. This is the outro music. It's getting louder and louder. I'll shoot back to our screen here.
Wow.